So we'll just kick things off and get started with my favorite part of today, which is the live client panel on the theme of building technology and business maturity for data management and governance, which will be moderated by our Sydney-based colleague, Della. So at this point, I would like to kindly invite our panelists now to turn on their cameras and join us on the virtual stage. Welcome all. Thanks for joining us. I'll do a quick round of introductions. Della, who is our All-Star Sales Manager in APAC, will be moderating the panel discussion today. She will be joined by a panel with a very diverse set of experiences in the data management space, and I'm certain that they will also bring unique and diverse perspectives to the conversation today. So I'll just start with a quick round of introduction. We have Igor Albernet, Head of Technology Integration at ACC. We have Michelle Sokol-Ho, Enterprise Data Steward at Australia Unity. John Gilbert, Data Governance Manager at Cebus Super. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. I will hand things over to Della, who will be moderating the panel discussion, and I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Afshin, and thank you everyone for joining, and welcome again to Atacama Innovate. So as mentioned, recap by Afshin from yesterday's session from Michael, and those who were not able to join us, we recently surveyed more than 1,000 executives around the world about their organization data readiness. And from the survey, we found that most organizations are still facing a number of challenges in become a data-driven organization. For example, 74% of the respondents say poor data quality negatively impacts their business. More than half of the executives say their business innovation is limited because of the data privacy and other regulations. And the other one is my favorite one. It's a little bit shocking, but sort of expected, is that 74% of the respondents still relying on Excel and email to store, share, and access data. And there's only 10% rely on the data catalog for this purpose. So these are the common challenges we heard quite often when we work with the clients when they start their data governance and data management initiative. And here I'm joined with three truly expert panelists who can offer you a much brighter picture to you all. They have gone through the process, leading their business through digital transformation initiative and also successfully driven their data management governance practice. So welcome again, Michelle, Igor, and John. So what we're going to do today, we're going to discuss, topics around, what are the keys of success to your data management, your data governance initiative, what are the most important factors when you're coming to select a data quality or data governance tool, and also, most importantly, how we view, business and technology maturity over time. So without further ado, I want to open the panel with a question to Igor. So Igor, I know ACC, rolling out an enterprise data governance program, and we have been with you for the process so far. Can you tell us a little bit more your journey so far, and what are the drivers behind the program, and how did you identify the first area to start?
Cool. Thank you, Della. Thank you all for attending this session with us, the customers in the front line of the Atacama conversation. So good to hear that we've moved away from Access databases. We're still in Excel landscape, but that's a positive one on your numbers, Della. So our challenges are very interesting in ACC. So ACC is a bit of a combination of public sector, insurance, and financial institutions. So we deal with quite a few interesting challenges. And for us, we're coming at this from a technology investment angle. So we are focused on driving our technology investment clearly linked to measurable business transformation outcomes. So we don't do technology for technology's sake, if you want. So to achieve this outcome in the data domain, we knew we needed to lift our maturity in our data management capabilities. And in that space, data governance is a key keystone foundation for us, right? So we wanted to build that governance alongside the technology capability. So independent solutions in a technology landscape around, say, data integration, data quality, or metadata management will deliver some value. But we wanted to have that value exponentially multiplied by a proper and solid foundational data governance capabilities. So that's what we set out to do, build in both areas, if you want. So we cannot do this in a theoretical vacuum. Also, it's kind of an interesting example to take initiatives that have done this for the data sake, but we want to connect this to clear day-to-day business challenges of our business operations, our regulatory constraints, and our bottom line figures. And so we need to tie this into a real value proposition. So we decided to anchor this capability building journey on one initiative that we need to solve for our business around reference data management, and at the same time put in place the key seeds for the data governance lift or data governance management journey lift that we wanted to do. So that's how reference data management with Atacama came to light, delivering kind of immediate value in a key data compliance requirement for us, along with a business prioritized data set roadmap that we built behind the scenes to say, this is what we want to achieve with this capability as a business value, and underpinned by a clear iterative data governance stream of work that's supporting it with a view to a wider data management puzzle, if you want. So in the end of this first sprint, we'll have both a technology platform in place, a business outcome fulfilled, and a clear underlying data governance seat stood up and running, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. Thank you for your input. Michelle, I think similarly from what Igor just described, I know it's quite similar to what Australian Unity was doing. I know you have done the transformation project, and I think similar to what Igor just mentioned, data governance and data management is an enabler, is a way to drive business value. And I know for Australian Unity, we use data governance as an enabler to transform and improve the customer experience, and also on top of meeting the regulatory requirements that mentioned by Igor as well. Can you comment on how your journey so far and how data governance and data management have been able to help to improve your customer experience?
Sure, thanks Della. So Australian Unity has been taking care of Australians for 180 years. We've been around since 1840. And the products and services that we offer are designed to help our members thrive all the way throughout all stages of their lives, from cradle to grave. We're also Australia's first member-owned wellbeing company. And so that gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of where we invest our money in terms of products and services that matter the most to our members. The interesting nature about the organisation then means that we have some information management challenges that are quite unique. The first thing would be that each of our platforms has their own view of the customer. So there is no single source of the truth. And being member-owned means that we obviously have some regulatory and compliance requirements that we need to meet in relation to that. When we have spoken to our lines of business, anecdotally, they tell us that they are spending more time checking the data and making sure that it's right rather than actually using it. They struggle to meet their regulatory and compliance requirements efficiently because there's so much manual verification of records that has to happen. And any of our data and analytics initiatives, especially those that relate to enhancing the customer experience, take a lot longer because different systems that hold similar information often provide conflicting views of the data. So we've reached a point where we don't want to be spending 80% of the time sourcing the data and only 20% of the time deriving the insights. So the piece of work that we've undertaken at Australian Unity in relation to data governance and data management is enabling us to simultaneously meet both those compliance and legislative requirements, as well as to enhance the experience of the customer. And I think that comes down to the right balance of people, process, and technology. On the people front, we've got strong executive sponsorship We've got a fantastic frontline leadership team, and we've got a great bunch of people who fulfill the role of data custodian, data steward, data owner. And I think that's incredibly important because governance initiatives, they cut across lines of business, and that can make for some very challenging organizational culture change. So everybody that you work with on the project really has to believe that what you're doing today is going to pay dividends for your customers. You don't necessarily have to be answering the phones, and you don't have to be processing claims to be customer focused. With respect to process, we have a clear information governance strategy, and that sets out our vision for the future and our roadmap. And we've got an information governance working group that helps us to execute on that roadmap. Lastly, then, the technology. We're obviously using Atacama's DQ and MDM capability to highlight and to monitor data quality issues as and when they arise, to help us to streamline the management of those issues from detection all the way to through to resolution, and also to help us master customer information across our various source systems. With a single view of who our members are, we're able to meet compliance and legislative requirements, but we're also able to derive or deliver additional benefits to our members. And at the moment, those benefits are in the form of wellbeing apps and wellbeing assessments and a member portal, all things that we can deliver exclusively to our members. And I think that's incredibly important because it means we're able to stay true to our roots, and that is being an advocate for positive change in the community.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I think that's really, great insight, and I think you really touch on. I cannot agree more with your point that you raised, and also Igor just mentioned. The data governance initiative is not just the technology, but it's also people, process changes, technology, data, and people together. And I think the cultural change is sometimes a piece that quite often being ignored when we're rolling our data governance initiative. And I think with that, before the panel, we actually discussed a little bit with John. We talk about how we're building up a literacy program. How do you sort of set up the governance framework within CBUS? I think can you share a little bit more about the tangible initiative that you have undertaken around this, and what is where you are right now?
Yeah, thanks, Della, and hi everyone. At CBUS, we have embarked on a program primarily to improve data literacy as a prerequisite for enabling self-service analytics and becoming data-driven. So for those that don't know, there's been a significant, a change in priorities within superannuation in Australia, driven primarily from the Royal Commission. There's a huge focus on growth, both inorganic and organic, and there's a focus on, delivering superior outcomes to our members, employers, staff, and stakeholders. Now, to do that, you've got to be data-driven. You've got to use or you leverage your data assets, your analytics capabilities, in order to make decisions that will affect these goals. So for us, we found that we had some significant challenges in our road to becoming data-driven. And these challenges became our drivers for change. So just quickly, some of these challenges, and I guess they're similar to most organizations, finding the right data. Our users could find data easily enough, it's replicated everywhere, but finding the right data was always a challenge. We didn't have any single source of reference, like a data catalog or something. Understanding data, so we could, might be able to find some data, but it was very hard to understand. There was a lack of documentation, a heavy reliance on IT and business SMEs. If you couldn't understand it, then there was obviously issues with trusting the data. There was poor data quality, inconsistent definitions, inconsistent metrics and KPIs, and a general lack of trust in the data when two repositories containing the same data, derived KPIs that said different things. Other challenges around using the data. So obviously, if you can't trust it, you have a lack of confidence in using it, risk of using incorrect or inaccurate data, and there were no guidelines around how to handle sensitive information. And our last challenge was around reusing data as well. You might have used it, but there was no way to collaborate and share your insights with other users. No mechanism to certify, content or even warn others against it. So we realized we really couldn't support self-service analytics. We can't become data-driven unless we improved our data literacy. Now, how are we going to do that? We decided that we needed to purchase a data catalog. So we're one of the 10%, and I'm surprised that it's only 10%. I thought it would be a lot higher than that, but maybe other organisations are contemplating moving in this direction in the near future. But essentially, we defined our requirements. We had a quick market scan. We conducted a tool assessment or tool selection process, and we selected a data catalog about a year ago. And since then, we've been focused on investing time understanding, sort of what the data catalog can do, how we can best, leverage its features and functions to support our needs, and how we can sort of improve data literacy through its features and functions. So we're only sort of a year into the journey. I predict it would be at least another year until we sort of get to a level level of maturity that we can actually, quite confidently support self-service and become data-driven. So the program essentially is to develop the data catalog to provide that single source of reference, so allow people to easily find and understand trusted data, to improve the user's understanding and the trust of data, to enable users to collaborate, innovate, and share their insights. And data catalogs, modern data catalogs in particular, have features that allow you to do that. And most importantly, if we can do that, we can democratize data, we can enable self-service analytics, but with the right level of governance. And I think that's something I'll talk about a little later as well. But so we have embarked on the program. It's moving quite well, but we've still got about a year to go. But it's improving data literacy through a data catalog.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John. And I think from the panelists, we all know that a data governance program isn't one-day job. It's a long and strategic program of any enterprise. And I think we talk about the maturity in business, and John has been 1 year in. Igor, you look after the technology within ACC. How do you see, when you start designing your data governance program, what are the considerations do you have when it comes to the technology selection and also the architecture design?
Yeah, so for us, it was very important to have a product that reflected our vision in terms of governance. And so while we started from a viewpoint of resolving a very specific business problem, the reference data management capability, with a view to build a wider data management landscape, the selection was driven from both the immediate functional requirements to have reference data management at enterprise level, while at the same time setting the foundations to provide a wider value proposition across other data management capabilities. So things like master data management and metadata management, for example, are kind of a core growth opportunity for us in this space by using the Atacama technology that we selected through a procurement process that looked at quite a wide range of options. So it wasn't this natural extensibility of the platform that we saw in the Atacama landscape, paired with the governance enablement it offered, that made us choose the Atacama option. And we didn't really see that extensibility as a vision across other products. So it was kind of the significant difference that we saw there.
Yes, thank you, Ingo. I think the extendability, a little bit, I think from a technology, being in a technology provider, we often do not recommend have a big bang approach. Typically, we start recommending our client, like you mentioned, start with one key area. You can deliver quick wins, even just from the technology enablement perspective as well, and you grow when the organization, the business and technology is mature to cater those needs. And I think we definitely, our product approach and our product team definitely agree with your approach as well. Michelle, I think in addition to technology being an enabler to start a data governance initiative, I know Australian Unity is more on the more mature end when it comes to your information governance framework. So you are heading up the Enterprise Data Stewardship Program in Australian Unity, and John earlier was really interested in, how we can build a successful data stewardship program within the organization. So I want to borrow your brain to, share with the audience today, how we can really embed data governance and data management within the business through enterprise data stewardship program.
I think, again, it really comes down to having the right people in the right roles. And so the stewardship function at Australian Unity is still relatively new, and it is being shaped in response to the dual needs of the project and also the wider business. So our stewards actually come predominantly from a business intelligence background. They're not people that we have sourced from out in the business. And all of our stewards sit under the governance function, but they are seconded to the project. So on the project, the stewards function as the conduit between the business SMEs and the wider project team. The stewards have responsibility for the specification of all of our data quality rules, and also the specification of our matching, our merging, and our cleansing logic as part of the processes that allow us to master customer information. On top of that, if we weren't busy enough, our stewards are also responsible for triaging data quality issues and for liaising with our risk and compliance teams, our legal teams, our lines of business, and our data quality remediation consultants to ensure that we get these issues resolved at source. Beyond the project, the plan is for the stewards to actually transition out into the business so that they are seen as the face of data management at the coalface. And the stewards are already proving pivotal in ensuring the credibility of data across our platforms. When they're out sort of with the business, the stewards obviously will have responsibility for upholding applicable policies and processes to make sure that data is used appropriately throughout its life cycle, for managing metadata, for setting up all of those business data definitions to help our people to source and to use and to comprehend the huge volumes of information that are moving about the organization. And I think that really does speak to the stewards' role in ensuring sort of trust and credibility in what is arguably one of the organization's most critical assets, its data.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. I think that's really excited for the journey ahead in Australian Unity with the stewardship program. John, I think we talked about this earlier. I think you are in the process of starting your stewardship program as well. I guess you just want to see if you have anything to share. What are the challenges you think or envision that setting up an enterprise data stewardship program?
Yeah, no, this was interesting. This is something I've been in the role now for 3 years, and obviously one of the key elements to data governance is stewardship. And I wanted to implement stewardship by going to the various lines of business, finding appropriate people to act as data stewards, and generally there were going to be sort of business SMEs and things like that, in order to work with governance to assist the teams in their data management activities. But I found that to be very challenging. Business lines of business weren't able to or didn't really want to share some of their resources in activities that they didn't necessarily think were very valuable to them. In addition to that, there was always the restructures and there was people moving around. So, if we got someone that'd move on, etc. So it really hasn't worked for us, that model. And I was mentioning to Michelle earlier that, I'm convinced now that we've got to change our model to more a business partnering model where we sort of onboard, full-time data stewards, business data stewards, and they will be, I guess, sit within the data governance team and be assigned to various areas of the business or projects in order to support, their stewardship activities within that area or domain. So I'm interested to hear about others who may have implemented this type of model, but that's where we're at the moment. So we haven't had a lot of success in implementing stewardship. So we're hoping to change models and obviously drive a better outcome.
Oh, thank you, John. I think from us, I think the answer is always it depends on what the business outcome, your desired outcome, what the business strategic needs look like. And there's no one size or one methodology fits every organization. I think CBUS and Australian Unity have different situation and different challenges. And that's a topic that, we all discuss and we help our clients with as well. So circling back, I mentioned one statistics earlier. 74% of the survey respondents say they access data through email and Excel. So, John and Igor, can you just speak to some of the risks that it brings through by accessing data through email and Excel, and how are ways that we can mitigate the risks while make sure the people in the organization will be able to access data they need for decision making. So maybe we can start with John.
Sure. Look, that's not uncommon. People who sort of sort of incredulous about that statistic, as it shouldn't be, because it's not uncommon. So what that means is that you have multiple repositories of the same data floating around. You don't have that data typically in your data catalog. The definitions, business rules used are probably not known. So there's a real risk there of using the wrong data, making decisions based on incomplete or inaccurate data. And I guess the big risk is around information security incidents such as data breaches that impact whether it be financially or non-financially the organization. In order to, I guess, mitigate these risks, you may want to implement a range of controls. And here at CBUS, while the focus is on improving the value of information, a big part of my role is protecting CBUS from information security incidents. So some of the controls that we've sort of put in place over the last couple of years. Obviously, one was to identify and classify our information assets by criticality and sensitivity, and this was a regulatory requirement now. It wasn't, more than a year ago. But this will help you identify and implement, appropriate controls that sit across your information assets to safeguard, I guess, them. You could also, and we're also installing data loss prevention software to detect potential data breaches and prevent them by monitoring, detecting, and blocking sensitive data, whether it's in use, in motion, or at rest. Developing integrated set of policies and standards and guidelines on how to handle particularly sensitive data. And when I say handle in inverted commas, I mean, sort of it could be copy, print, destroy. So there's a number of things you can do with data, but we need guidelines, or users really need guidelines on how to actually handle the sensitive information to safeguard it. And I guess the last, control that you can implement is to develop educational and training materials to promote awareness and drive a risk culture. So you may not totally stamp it out, but you can certainly implement controls to minimize the risk and impact of any incidents that may occur.
Thank you, John. Igor, what about you? What's your thoughts on this?
Very, very much aligned to some of the comments that John made around DLP and some of the controls you need to have in place from a privacy and security point of view. But one of the key streams of work that we've had developed over the past few years is some of those practices around using spreadsheets, emails as the store and the medium to share information have been driven by weaknesses in terms of clarity around key platforms, key technologies that we need to have in place, and that enable that sharing, that enable that visibility, while at the same time allowing us to have proper controls around them. So we've invested heavily over the past 3 years around putting in place the significant technology components of our landscape to allow us to interact and flow data in and out and within the organization as needed, while at the same time making sure that we have proper controls around them. So that part of the equation is important to consider beyond the data management side of things. So it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Again, it needs to consider the wider landscape. And so we've been working consistently in the security and privacy space. And on top of what John mentioned, we have done things like drills around events that may happen in the organization around leakage and some incidents. So that creates both a culture of acknowledgement and a culture of awareness of that kind of event. But and the bottom line is we need to fix those problems in the source in terms of where the behaviors are created from.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. Thank you, John. I think having a proactive data governance approach is definitely serve as an enabler for the business, not just the governance, but the overall security and privacy framework as well. So we're coming towards the end of the panel. So yesterday at one of the Q&A session, one of the audience asked our Atacama team that what's the big plan for Atacama. So I want to bring these questions to the panelists today as well, just to share, what are the next big things that you're working on? What are your future plans for your data management and governance program? Are there any challenges you are envisioning? What are the challenges and how you're going to address that? Maybe we'll start with Michelle.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stella. So the roadmap for data governance and data management at Australian Unity looks incredibly bright. I think we have moved past seeing governance as being a controlling function, first and foremost, and we sort of recognise that governance can often be seen to focus on telling people what they can and cannot do with data. So the roadmap at Australian Unity really is geared towards becoming a data-driven organisation and towards unlocking the strategic value of our data across our various platforms. And so with that in mind, we are looking to onboard more data sources, so to connect sort of more information and make that available to our users. And there's also a focus on frictionless access to data and sharing of data. So we're looking to implement anonymisation and depersonalisation in keeping with policy management. I think in terms of the broader sort of challenges that we're facing, one of the things that I think is challenging is actually just keeping up with the technology because it's changing so quickly. You only have to read anything around, the rise of the data fabric to understand that we are set to get to the good bit faster. That data management is changing for the better and it's not going to look the same in 5 or 10 years' time. And that is going to change the stewardship function as well. I don't expect that I'm going to have to routinely profile data. I expect that a lot of that is going to be done for me. I expect that matching rules are going to be suggested for me and I'm going to have recommendations around how I can improve the existing matching. And I'm really hoping that we're going to do away, excuse me, with source to target mapping between our sources and our MDM model. And really that the model will just start to model itself eventually. So I think really we're starting to see some of that as well with the Gen 2 capability that's coming along, but we're set to see more and more of it. So I think it really is just making that space to keep up so that you're not in a position later on where you have to catch up.
Igor, John?
From our point of view, I think the challenge to us in the future, while we have a clear roadmap in terms of our data management capabilities that we want to build, improve, and create in a few parts of the data management roadmap, there is a wider challenge for us in the cloud landscape. We have been cloud first for a while now, but the main challenge for us is how to be able to how can we build an agile, secure, and robust flow of data across all of our cloud platforms, because we have an extensive footprint in cloud, and the challenge is not so much the ability to use the right technology in the right places, how we connect them all and make those flows able to change, because we change as a business, while being secure in terms of privacy and risk that we have from an external and internal point of view, but being robust in terms of being able to change with us in the future. That is our core challenge at this point.
For us, from a governance point of view, everything we do has to, enable the organization to deliver on its strategic intent. We've got essentially 4 goals. One is to improve the business value of information. The second would be to reduce risks, and these could be regulatory risks, legal risks, operational risks. The third would be to reduce costs, whether they be storage costs, retrieval costs. We've got to look at ways of reducing costs. And the fourth is to improve operational efficiency, and there's a lot of work to be done there, I think, as well. Well, I'm really excited because of the technology, and Michelle talked about it before, but some of the new features and functions coming out of at the moment are just fantastic. You know, if I think about a data catalog, there's a lot of machine learning enabled capabilities in a data catalog that allow you to perform data governance functions automatically. A lot of these functions, being able to tag metadata to various elements is very manual. But through machine learning enabled capabilities, you can, using policies, you can auto tag elements as they're harvested from your sources. This saves a tremendous amount of time and adds a lot of value as well. We're obviously focused on data quality. So, your opening comments about, poor data quality still, resonate with us here. So we're always, always aware of understanding, what our users want from data, and being able to provide, the data of good quality. We're also mindful of information security incidents. So we're doing everything we can to mitigate risks around those, but also educate our users on some of the risks, some of the impacts to the organizations if we were to have some of the incidents, and also make them aware of what they can do to help the organization safeguard the assets information itself. So our focus is to really all use all these technologies to support our goals, to drive data literacy, promote self-service analytics. So that's really where we need to get to in order to drive a data-driven organization, but all within an acceptable level of risk. And you've got to understand what that level of risk is from a governance point of view. So risk governance is a sort of a balancing act. You can't really do your one size fits all anymore. You've got to have a more adaptive approach where you implement the right level of governance based on opportunities and risk.
Yeah.
So that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, Igor, and John. Thank you so much for the insights and really, the great journey ahead of us. And, at Karma, we're really looking forward working with you to address, those challenges and deliver business values. And thank you for your insights today. I hope the audience have a great takeaways from today's session. And thank you for joining. So with that, I will hand it over to Afshin to take us through the rest of the conference today.
Thank you all, and thank you, Della, for moderating such a wonderful session. On behalf of Atacama, I'd like to thank Michelle, John, and Igor once again.